Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, college football fans across the nation and around the world. This is the Tim May Show. This is a very special Tim May Show. I've been wanting to get this guy on for 10 years now, 12 years. Depending on how you do the calendar, maybe 14 years. But Mark Pantoni, general manager, for want of another term, of the Ohio State football program. Welcome to the Tim May Show. Finally.
Thanks, Tim. Glad you finally tracked me down after this long time.
Yeah, I know. I think you're somewhere in Libya in a basement or something. I'm not sure, but they're big on the NFL and NBA there, from what I can tell. What's hanging in your behind you there? But by the way, I was asking before we started. Have you seen Michael Jordan's new airplane?
Just the outside of it. I haven't gotten an invite to fly on it yet.
Yeah, he hadn't gotten the invite yet, ladies and gentlemen, yet. Mark Pantoni, you've come a long way in the last 19 years when you kind of like worked your way into like helping get in on the recruiting at the University of Florida under Urban Meyer to now general manager of the Ohio State football program. That just shows you how much you've changed and how much where you work, the job you do has changed, right? I mean, has it been a whirlwind for you over the last 20 years?
Absolute whirlwind, and it's flown by. I mean, considerably where it started and where it is now. From going to aspiring medical school student to put that track on hold to just be a volunteer in the football recruiting office at the time I started graduate school. And first thing I did there was no social media back then, so I'd come in and handwrite like 400 to 500 envelopes every single day, and I'm like, wow, this is what I'm really skipping medical school for. It's a heck of a deal. But anything I put my mind to, I kind of, I hit it with my feet running and just work as hard as I can. And that's what I did when I first started out, working at Florida with Coach Meyer, and obviously him being one of the greatest coaches of all time and learning what recruiting meant back then, every single day grind 24/7. And so the chaos was a normality to me. As I grew in the profession, and then obviously moving up here with him in 2012, a lot has changed, as you have said.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, he has degrees in physiology and kinesiology, and that goes well when you're purveying players and whether or not they have the physical ability to play at Ohio State. No, I'm just joking, but it is funny. Sidetracked is it's it wasn't even a junction. You kind of didn't you get into like the recruiting aspect of things, or just work just to kind of be part of the football program? I mean, what got you to that point before we move on?
Yeah, I always, as an outsider, as I was studying pre-med, just the intrigue of how football rosters were built.
Yeah.
Always following Florida at the time where I went to school, the players they brought in, the players on the team, being kind of an avid fan, but also in the NFL, doing fantasy football and trying to have success in that aspect just as a hobby. But then when I got my foot in the door, I was like, man, this is really cool. I loved it. I made it a point. I'm going to be the first one in every day, the last one to leave. And then as I was there, coaches started learning my name. They started having me host families that would visit on official or unofficial visits. And, as the parents gave me positive feedback to the coaches, the more responsibility they end up giving me as I grew.
Yeah. Well, Mark, just tell me, what was that moment though? There's always a moment in anybody's life, and I don't mean by moment. I mean, it could be over a span of weeks or even a year. But what was that moment that told you, hey, I really want to do this now. I don't want to operate on people or check people's tonsils. I want to do this. I mean, what do you remember that moment or that week or that year that just told you, wow, I really have a passion for this, and I feel like I'm pretty good at it. And man, if I can just make people understand that, I can really go far in this. I mean, do you remember that moment?
Whew, I mean, I almost want to say the first day I stepped foot in the door, because it was, just being in that environment. It's a very intense, high energy environment, and it's extremely competitive, and that's kind of how I'm wired in all aspects. So the moment I stepped foot in the door. Now, there's multiple stories I could tell. I know we don't have the time, but just growing in the profession and all the, Coach Meyer, knowing as I was a young and experienced guy, putting me in situations amongst the coaching staff of evaluating players and giving my opinion, knowing that I disagreed with the coaches, and helping me grow in that area. To the fact of having me do a lot of things on the recruiting side of things behind the scenes, with film evaluations, preparing for meetings that we'd have for full staffs at the times, and just like he always said, every time you stepped in a room, it was like coaching Tom Brady. Like, you better be on your A game every day you step foot in that office, otherwise you're going to get exposed. And so from early on, I learned like I need to be prepared and be at my very best every single day.
Man, what did you have a moment like in the movie Moneyball where Jonah Hill is sitting there and Brad Pitt, they're having all these old time scouts are there, which would be coaches, so to speak, in your realm, and they're all debating on who should be taken, why that person should be taken, the trade that should be made, etc. Did you have one of those moments where you spoke up and people listened and you kind of got your credits, your street cred? You understand what I'm saying
Right.
with those
Right.
guys?
Yeah. Coach Adazio, who was the O-line coach at the time, he's a fiery Italian like me. So two paisans who were very had their strong opinions. We debated heavily, and the debates are always healthy, but sometimes they can get a little more intense than others. And so we were having a good debate about a high school offensive lineman that he felt very passionate about taking, and I did not see it based on the film I had watched. So we ended up not taking him, and fast forward, my evaluation ended up being correct, and I still make sure Steve knows, based on all the names he called me at the time, that my evaluation was correct at the time.
Yeah, what's funny though, I brought up the Moneyball thing, but it is about getting the right fit, right? I mean, it is about getting the guys. Obviously, you got to be able to run, pass, catch, block, knock people on their fanny, but then past that, getting the right fit and stuff, and that's what's impressed me about the classes y'all put together at Ohio State, first under Urban and now under Ryan Day, but then to be able to augment it now with the portal. But just, I mean, can you speak on the idea of who, or maybe you already had it in your brain? Not only is this player got to be good, but he's kind of got to fit. You understand what I'm saying?
100%. And up to a few years ago, fit was fit culturally, fit academically, fit, in the locker room for all those traits. But now in this new world, the fit is now monetarily, to where every prospect you recruit now has a price tag associated with it. So that is now another piece or another layer on the puzzle that I feel like we're playing 4D chess some days. Of when you say find the right fit, it's a lot of pieces that you're trying to fit together to make the whole thing work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just come play for Ohio State and play for a national championship anymore. It's like there are dollar signs involved because everybody's out there. Let's just jump right into that. How strange is that considering when you first got into the profession back in the aughts, the 2000s? How strange is it now to, in essence, be talking money in one form or fashion as part of the spiel? As part of whether he will fit in your, for one of another term, set your salary cap. Right now with the revenue sharing. I mean, it just it's, how strange is that to you that it has evolved to this point?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, I went to school and did the whole pre-med track. And, up until a couple of years ago, I'm like, man, I wasted a lot of time and energy and taking really hard classes for really nothing that's applicable to what I do.
Yeah.
Now I look back and I'm like, man, this is very applicable now because everything's problem solving, everything's critical thinking to put this all together to make it work. So I do feel better about myself there now. But I'm in college football right now. It's as NFL-esque as we're ever going to be. Just over the last year and a half, I've spent more time reading and meeting with cap guys in the NFL and understanding the system now. It doesn't necessarily apply to college, but there are different things that do apply. And so to make myself as knowledgeable as I can to, take a whole roster and to really, try to build a championship roster off, dollars and cents that you have 85 guys in that locker room to make happy. And my job just became really challenging because I got to look all those guys in the eyes every day as I see them in the building, and they're looking at me like you're controlling how much money I make. So
Yeah.
it's changed a lot. I do miss having the relationships with, the recruits at a younger age and building that relationship as I did early on in my career. But now it's so business oriented almost that like you can't be biased or have really strong relationships with guys because you have to be really neutral to everything and
Yeah.
be as fair as possible.
And I think in the revenue sharing realm of things, I mean, I think Ross Bjork has said football is going to get like 13 or 14 million dollars of it. Maybe that's a round term, right? That sounds about accurate. But then it's not necessarily everybody gets an equal amount, right? I mean, you guys are allowed to parse it the way you want to parse it, but everybody gets a share, right? And how you and Ryan Day, I would think, have spent, and the coaches have spent hours, days of hours, weeks of hours talking about preparing for that. That's what got me about you guys. I told Ross Bjork that when I talked to him right after the House settlement was finally inked, that Ohio State did a great job of being prepared for it. A lot of schools are still going, wait a minute, what? you know, uh, but is that the toughest part now? Is telling, and this is a generic term, backup guard Jimmy or third team guard Jimmy, you're going to get this. And by the way, Jeremiah Smith or whomever is going to get that. Do they understand that? I guess the players.
Yeah, for the most part, the players do understand, what they're dealing with, and like you said, now we're capped, and it makes it a lot more challenging because you're restricted to the amount of money you have to work with. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of time spent on, okay, how much money are we going to allocate to each position group? How are we going to allocate it with the incoming guys coming in January? Because the cap cycle doesn't match the playing season, so that makes it even more challenging. It's opposite. The strategy is the opposite how the NFL works with the fiscal year. So that's another challenge we deal with. And then, having money left over for the transfer portal that you want to set aside, at the end of the season. So yeah, it's conversations, but I will tell you, Matt Patricia has been really, really helpful because when he was with Detroit, he was basically their de facto GM as well. So he's extremely knowledgeable and smart and has been really helpful to Coach Day and I in trying to map this all out.
Yeah. Hey, at the end of the day, does every player knows what every other player's getting, or is that just privy? I mean, privileged information. If they want to share it, they can. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, you don't have a chart up on the board every day. Everybody walks in and goes, he's getting this, he's getting that, right? I mean, it's go ahead.
Yeah, the contracts are all supposed to stay confidential.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, what what's the toughest conversation you've had without naming a player or something? And you may not even want to get into that, but of just that first time when you literally had to explain to someone, we're doing this with this group, with this position group, we're doing this with this position group, and here's what you're getting. You don't need to have to, but did you grow in that very moment? You know what I mean? The first time you had to explain to someone to their face what they're worth at this point, because believe me, there's this is a hell of a lot more than you were getting 10 years ago. You know what I mean? I mean, if you were a football player, I don't think nobody lives in the past anymore, obviously, and stuff. What was that moment like? Remember, I keep going back to Moneyball when Jonah Hill had to tell a guy he'd been traded. Remember? I mean, I don't even know if you saw the movie, but it was pretty good. But go ahead. Yeah.
There's not been one moment. There's been lots of moments.
Yeah.
Obviously, every person, not just in college football, but in every profession, feels like their value is more than obviously their earnings. So they're really hard conversations sometimes. Obviously, you want to have a why behind everything you say. You want to have some sort of structure and order. Obviously, the way we do it is very NFL-esque, where the older guys, the veterans, they should be the highest paid guys that are deserving of so, and then you work your way down the lineup, and you try to be as straight as you can. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I think guys understand if there is a pecking order, you are trying to be as fair as possible.
Is it like the NFL too, though? Quarterbacks are treated one way. I mean, wide receiver. I mean, is it kind of like similar to that in terms of the quarterbacks are still the most valuable player in terms of money involved? I mean, that's an accurate I mean, doesn't necessarily mean the quarterback room gets all that money, but quarterbacks per se share a little bit more of a share, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean it's every situation is so unique because like you go from last year with a veteran fifth year guy like Will Howard to this year you have guys in that room who've never started a game.
Yeah,
So again the value of last year is not the same as the value of this year. I mean, and for example, you put a number on the wide receiver room. Okay, this is how much we want to allocate. Okay, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate. Okay, how's the rest of that room now? I mean,
yeah.
just with two proven guys that are, very, very high NFL draft picks in the future. So, like, there's no perfect system that you can ever do. So, again, it's this complicated formula you have to figure out. It's not only by position group, but okay, let's take the best player, 2, 3, 4, 5 down the whole roster, and they got to be, compensated accordingly. And so, again, it's a complex puzzle. It's not perfect, but there's a lot of conversations involved, and there's reasons behind everything.
Can I ask another leading question, maybe? But as the season goes along and a guy goes from third string to starter, I mean, can you adjust the revenue sharing aspect of that?
Yeah, you can, but like I said, we're trying to structure this as NFL-esque as we can to where
Yeah,
in NFL, if a rookie becomes the rookie of the year, they're not getting a new contract in the middle or three-quarters of the season, but that would be accounted for in the negotiation for the following year.
yeah. Moving forward. Hey,
Yeah.
Mark, do you also are you explain to people how this works now though in this round because players are allowed to have representatives. You can call them an agent and call them whatever you want, but somebody else in the room if they are you dealing just with the player or are you dealing with their reps and their families? How does that work?
Yeah, I'd say just overall in general, 90 to 95% of the time I'm dealing with an agent or representation. The other 5% is typically a parent or the player himself directly. But for the most part, they're all having both in the current roster and in the high school world, they're having agents or representation.
Yeah, and the other thing, what do you? I mean, because people are quite curious. This is a whole new era. Uh, do you- do you have to like you talked about a while ago, transfer portal? You gotta be agile, mobile, hostile in the transfer portal when you get the opportunities and stuff too. So does that mean you're keeping a pool over here no matter what for the transfer portal, and also for one of another term, rookies meaning freshmen? Uh, you have to keep a pool over here to deal with that. Have y'all gotten that far into the weeds, so to speak, on it?
Yeah, like I said, so this current fiscal year, so just started this past July 1, goes until June 30th of 2026 is this first year's cap.
Yeah,
So this current cap is taking care of this current roster up until December. Okay, come December, the transfer portal is going to open. You're going to have mid-years enrolling in January, and you're going to need money to retain your roster on the back half,
yeah.
all coming out of this year's cap. So you have to be creative and keep money saved away on the back end to make sure you got three pools of different people that you're going to have money for.
Do you sleep at night? I mean, do you have time to sleep? I mean, I think you're sort of on vacation right now, but I mean, you're not. I know you were. I think you slipped away for a few days last week out of town. But you, how do you keep up with all this right now, Mark? How difficult is it?
It's become more difficult. I do, you can take care of a lot of the phone calls, obviously, wherever you are. The film evaluation is still very important and critical to me.
Yeah,
So make sure I have time to do that. But, going on, I guess this is year 20 or 21 of doing this for a living. And now having my twins are now 10 years old.
yeah,
Uh, Time management is so critical, one, just because I just think from the moment I start in the morning to the moment like I'm going to bed, like just every minute counts. So being very strategic with my time, not trying not to have any wasted time during the day to where I can get everything done. And then two, just the trust in your staff. Create a great staff around you to be able to delegate, knowing that you can't do everything and that they're going to take care of what their job is. Do your job,
yeah.
is the slogan. So, but yeah, it's another just added layer in. Hey, you either embrace it or you're going to fall behind. So, you just learn to love it.
Hey, when you guys now, how much are y'all involved with the NIL side of things, or how much are you allowed to be involved with the NIL side of things in terms of steering or whatever you want to call it, players to certain situations and stuff? Is that part and parcel to your job now?
Um, Not directly, but obviously, Learfield's created the Buckeye Sports Group,
Right.
so they have a full-time crew there now to go out in the community to find third-party marketing deals for our players, and so obviously we are in communication with them to make sure we're aligned and on the same page. And at the end of the day, we're trying to do as much as we can for our players. It's good for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, you're not in Congress, you're not the president, you're the czar of college football now, and what you say goes. I'm just hypothetical here, as Bo Bishop likes to say. I call them hypotheticals. Uh, what's the one thing you would do right now that would bring some form of, because obviously the House, a lot of things in the House settlement are going to be challenged in court. I mean, it's already happening, if not already, and stuff. What is the one thing, if you could just wave a magic wand, that would bring a little bit more peace to the chaos? Uh, what would that magic wand would it make the transfer portal much more timely? But you're I've got like 30 things going in my head that you could do. I'm not trying to give you the answer, but if you had that magic wand, what would you change about the atmosphere even now as we head into this new era of the house settlement and revenue sharing?
I have a lot of opinions. I don't want to make any headlines with them. So, but just in general, I just think there needs to be stability and congruence across college football in general. And I have my opinions of how to get there, but I don't think I have a seat at the table yet to express those,
Yeah.
which is fine.
But,
Um,
but you
but
do. But you're the guy. Y'all are the guys down in the Hully Gully getting the work done. It's like Ross Bjork told me, your athletic director. You need something from the federal side of things, because Ohio State's not operating under the same rules as Tennessee, as Alabama, as Georgia in terms of, for example, NIL, rules, etc. It's all states rules, and but you're hoping everybody abides by the NCAA rules or the CSC rules, but you're not really sure they're going to do that either. But federal legislation would make it that way. Is that an accurate? I mean, because that's what Ross basically told me.
yeah, I mean that is obviously one way to do it.
Yeah,
There are others, in my opinion. I'm not going to share those right now, but there are different ways, and I think just whatever those ways are, we just need to get aligned on all levels. Obviously, the players need to have some sort of voice to make sure that they're aligned. They can't be out of this conversation.
yeah,
Otherwise, it's just going to continue to stay problematic and chaotic.
yeah, yeah. I once said one time, college football wasn't meant to be a career choice, but really, as I like to point out, the average career span for a player in the NFL is 3.7 years. In college, you can be in college 6, 7, 8 years now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Depending on where it's going. And so this is a major moment in their life. All right, your last couple of things. You worked your way into this business just from a pure passion standpoint and stuff. Uh, and I can get your opinion on this. I've been advocating since I've been covering college football for basically 50 years now in some form or fashion, that players should have been involved, should have been sharing revenue in some form or fashion all along. That's how we got backed into this mess. You know what I mean? But mess is not the right term, because a lot of things have happened for the very good over the last 5 years, in my opinion, and stuff. But did from the get-go of you getting involved, did you see that too? That somehow, some way, we almost had to end up in a situation like this?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, we could talk for hours about how we got here and where do we go, but um, I do think that NIL, for what it's meant to be, is a very good thing for the players. It was a long time coming,
Yeah.
and we just need to continue, I think, what the original idea was and try to get this back in some orderly fashion and have guardrails, make sure everybody's operating on the same set of rules. And I think we can get back to a really good place,
I got you.
which is why we all do what we do. In college football, is such a great game that hopefully we can restore it back to what it's known for.
Hey, can I ask two more questions? I always say one, but two more. Number one, do you see it's already happening, but do you see even more? You guys have benefited so greatly by being astute when it's come to the transfer portal of getting guys for the most part that fit and for the most part contributed greatly over the last several years and stuff. Do you Here's my question. I'm not putting backing you into a corner here, but to me, it makes more sense to take an offensive lineman out of the transfer portal than it does right out of high school, unless it's Orlando Pace. I mean, you know where I'm going with that. But are we going to see more and more of the transfer portal, approve of where guys have gone and proven themselves maybe at another level, and can step in right away and be number one worth that revenue share, but be contributing in terms of they've already paid their dues in terms of development. Now here they are. It's kind of like the opposite of developing a guy and then 3 years later he goes to the NFL, as opposed to now you can get guys who are developed. I mean, are we seeing more? Are we going to see more and more a move to that aspect of things? Do you think?
I think it's a great point. I think it's interesting to look at a couple things. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to build our roster from high school. Say 80% from the high school ranks,
Yeah.
and be right on our evaluations and develop those guys. But like you said, so obviously when you're dealing with a cap, my job is to eliminate the dead money. And so
Yes.
what you don't want is to pay a high school offensive lineman, defensive lineman, tight end, which are known as developmental positions, who just look at the percentages. True freshmen aren't coming in and making immediate impact. So to pay them a large sum of money, knowing they're not going to play year one and potentially not year two, that those are risky. And
Yeah.
so again, those go back to philosophical. How much money are we willing to invest in those positions out of the high school ranks without being reckless, without creating potential issues in those current rooms where high school kids are walking in the door making more money than the older guys. So those are tough questions. I mean, they're tough conversations we have. At the end of the day, though, our job is to put a championship roster together, and we'll do whatever we think's best to get there.
Hey, was last year a dream scenario for a championship roster? Was that a dream scenario?
Dream scenario. I mean, just those guys all coming back for a reason. Losing the game we did, and we're literally going to rock bottom there, and just the adversity, the culture of the locker room again, the culture of that locker room at the end of the day is what's going to win you ball games. And you look back to all the championship teams over the last few years, it's the coaches all tell you they won the game because those guys the leaders were stronger, than the whole group. So,
Yeah.
that's the goal.
Yeah. When you say culture, man, I mean, it's a real thing, and it's hard to define. You know it when you see it, right? Or you know it when it gets backed into adversity. Hey, last question. Have you been blessed? You work for Urban Meyer, like you said, one of the great coaches of all time, showed you a way of doing things and got you involved and challenged you, and you responded to that challenge. Now you work for Ryan Day also. I'm telling you, that player meeting where he met with the players and then moved on, let them have their own meeting. There's all kinds of ways a coach could have approached that, but that was genius move when you look back on it, right? Coaching genius move and stuff. But have you been? Do you feel blessed? I mean, what is the term how would you describe how you feel right now? Your background to this point.
Yeah, every day I'm incredibly blessed knowing that I've gotten to work at just two great places, have had stability in my life. You go back to Ernie Johnson that said that there's a got to jobs, I got to do this, or I get to do this. And
Yeah.
I've been blessed to get to do this every day. I wake up and I get to go to a places where you have the opportunity to win national championships. You see these guys early on in high school, and then 3, 4, 5 years later, they're first round draft picks. And having the opportunity to now be part of 4 national championship teams. I mean, I'm just completely blessed and just so thankful that, Coach Meyer has given me that opportunity day one, and Coach Day has entrusted me to continue to build this thing up.
Mark Pantoni, man, absolutely. Thank you for coming on the Tim May Show finally, man, for the first time. Let's not make it the last time, all right?
That's right, man. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Pantoni, one of the greats.